Yes, we're recording. Does everybody hear me properly? Yeah.
Loud and clear.
Yeah, loud and clear. Cool. So I'm gonna put here. I'm gonna start sharing my screen so we can have a look. Yeah. So okay, so everybody should be looking at the screen now. So okay, so let's have a look at this. So okay, I think so far I mean, I've been busy, like I said, writing up this course that I'm doing for the units, and I've been doing a little bit of this here and there, but I think the majority of the work goes into, at the moment I'm just creating this texture. I think I'm nearly there. I just need to sort out the color and sort out a few things, the rust, and I think some of the, I managed to get some of these like bumps like going up and down. I'm gonna create another one that is quite small that I can scatter with the different methods. So at the moment this is what I am with this, and I think might not seem much from the last time, but I think I just stopped it for a while because I was working on it. But I think I managed to get this working here, these little bumps here and there that sort of make it a little bit more interesting. There are, I think here, for example, this here will be rust coming out from there and then leaking down and stuff like that. But at the moment it's just, I don't have any color, so I just put a simple color just to get that out right. But I think the roughness is roughly there, and I'm just gonna have to sort of, it will be quite dimmed down when I apply the rust. Okay, so what I want to show you today is just a little bit of creating like a sort of like an over material, a material that you can use for pretty much anything. So at the moment I have an issue with something that I don't know what it is. It's with the normal, blending the normals. For some reason it's giving me an error, but could be a bug. I don't know. But I'll look into that. But anyway, I think the basic things we can probably create it very quickly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a little bit of that. So I'm going to go here into my master material. I go on master material here, which is all the master materials, and I have all my functions. I'm not going to go through function because function is more complex aspects of shading. It's more, it can get quite complicated, all these things that you can actually use. The good thing is that once you know how they work, you can actually reuse them several times without having to make one all the time. What you have to do is change the inputs, and then you would have something that works for everything. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do just a quick sort of generic material, so you can have the capability to take things a little bit further. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here into the master material, and I'm just going to create a new material, and I'm going to call it here master material. That's the way you should name things here according to Unreal. And I think I told you at the beginning, just Google master material. Sorry, not master material. Just got that in my head now. Just Google Unreal Engine for naming, asset naming conventions, and it will give you a guideline. Like MM is master material, MI is material instance, TX is texture. You normally start with TX underscore something. So I'm trying to follow that. Things like particle, like P underscore. Even now with the new Niagara, you go like Niagara System NS or Niagara emitter NE. And things like that. And then that was always good because you can actually search for them here and just type the stuff, and then it will automatically filter out everything you have in this folder. You don't have to go and search, so it's easy to find things like that. So I normally put this master material, and I'm gonna call this test. Okay, and then you're just gonna go through a few things. Okay, so at the moment it's the master material. Okay, you open this, and I'm gonna put it here. Okay, you will see that there is nothing in there. Nothing been shaded, nothing been calculated. So automatically we're gonna work on this. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to create a material instance. Okay, so you all know material instance, what it is in a nutshell. Or what it is just a copy of the original master material, and it's going to be an instant which pretty much says, hey, take the original master material, and then I'm going to be able to customize it, tweaking new values into the inputs. So I don't have to create a material every time, make a copy of material every time I have an asset. So you all know that. So So pretty much they create a parameterized material using the material as a base. So pretty much what you have to do is create everything that you know that you're going to be tweaking in the master material. You don't have to embed it inside the material. You have to actually make it as a parameter. And making it as a parameter means that it will be customized by the user. Okay, so we're going to do that. So we're going to create a master material. And again, I'm going to create this, and I'm going to call mi material instance underscore, and I'm going to call this test. Okay. So now, when we open this, nothing happened because we haven't put anything to this. You see, only said the parent is master material test, and there is nothing in here because we haven't done anything in the original. So we have started working on this. Okay. So what I normally suggest is that because we're turning everything into a material, into a master material, we need to put something here. For example, let's start with color. Let's say the base color. So we're going to start with base color, and what you normally do is you just take a right click here, and you just take I believe the thing for this is just the texture texture sample, and you get this. You all know that texture sample pretty much what it says hey, I'm going to have a texture sample that you're going to attach to this. Okay, so and we all know that the texture sample normally comes from, you know, here the section that it connects the RGB, and I believe you can this is a fairly new addition. You're gonna RGB, red, green, and blue, the channels, alpha, and you can actually have everything in one go RGB depending. So here we know that we can just connect this into the base color. Okay, and that will give us an error because we don't have anything attached to this at the moment. Okay, and it has no UV, nothing, so it says hey, I got nothing attached to this. Okay, so what I've done is this. So let me show you something, because this is something that you probably want to try. So just remember that at the moment, if we put something here, a texture, I don't know, anything, concrete base color, this, we put this in here, the error goes away, and this is what we have in here. But this guy is 2K. So if we turn this into a parameter, every time you load up and make a copy, this will be the default. Okay, and 2K sucks not sucks a lot of memory, but we know that it's something that is not very efficient, because what's the point of having here 2K when we know that we just need something just so the error goes away, because you need to have some sort of connection. Okay, so what you have to do is, and what I did was I went and I created like a little sort of library of mini textures that are only like few pixels by few pixels, and then I used those for I created in Photoshop. So I'm gonna show you where they are, and I think I use them as I got them here in my texture, and I got it here into a folder called utilities, I believe. Okay, and here you can see that I did this. So pretty much, for example, this texture tells me that when I'm doing layer materials, I know that this is the texture that I'm going to put in the slot for layer 1, for layer 2, for layer 3, 4, and 5. You see, just numbers. And if you see the resolution of this, I don't know if you see it here, you see it's only 128 by 128. So the same thing I did for when I was going to use a material. So I got something that is 50% gray, and it's 128 by 128. So this thing here, if I open it, you can see it's very small. Okay, it hasn't got one alpha 0, but you can see it's something that is very small, 128. So if we put something like this into a parameter, every time we create a instance, we don't have to load out the 2K that I just did. We only load up something that is fairly small, which is 128 by 128. Okay, that makes the material more efficient, the memory more efficient, and your game lighter as well, because you don't have to, every time you make a copy, you will have a new copy or a new instance of the, no, it doesn't make a copy, but a new reference to a new instance that is 2K. Okay, so what you can do is you can create them. It's very simple. This stuff is just Photoshop, and I create this one as well, and this one is 2K, but I just had it because I wanted to. But for my normal, for example, I create the same, though. Just a normal with red, green, and blue, 0.5 on red, 0.5 on green, and 1 in blue, and I will 128 by 128, and I name that, you see, underscore text underscore nm underscore field. Okay, so I'm going to use this one, gray field. So with this one selected, what you have to do, for those who doesn't know, if you have something selected in here in the content browser, and if you go into the actual slot, you click this button. It says you selected access from Content Pro. So you go some selectors, and when you do that, it will fill it for you. Okay, so now this thing is 128 by 128. Okay, so if I apply this, which is essentially the same applying and saving, and if I go to the MI test, you see nothing happens here because we don't have a parameter. It's picking up the gray, but the gray is sort of encapsulated inside the UI, so it won't work. So we have to do, we know this, we have to turn this dude into an actual parameter. So what we have to do, I think, is right click and say convert to parameter. And you to a certain extent have done this. So convert to parameter, and we're gonna call this base color. However you choose to do this is up to you. I just like to keep it in capital. So we got this, okay? And if we save this, which is essentially the same as doing apply and save, now because this is a parameter, now you can see, what is it? They were here, you can see the base color has the ability to now to change. So I can do click here, click there, and I can use anything else. I can use this, you see? I can use anything. So that will make us, every time we make a copy, we have the ability to now change this. And we can still put a 2K thing that we just did, okay, which is this one. You can see that we can actually do it, you see? But now because we have the ability to have that option by turning into a parameter, okay? So what we have to do is just uncheck this here, and it goes back to the one that is embedded, okay? Everybody understand that because everybody has done this to a certain extent, correct? Yeah, okay. So I know that some of this stuff is already being said, but I just wanted to clarify and then go through from the beginning. So, okay, so now that we have that, okay, now one of the things that I find quite confusing and Unreal in general is the UI. It's always the UI, and I think I find it difficult because everything goes stuck up like that, and there is no indentation, nothing that you say, well, this is the part of it, this will open, this will close. And it's always quite difficult to see all the parameters. And you can see in complex materials like this one, for example. If I show you this material here, you can see this is all the stuff in there, look, all the parameters, all the way to here, from here to here are all these parameters. So it's quite difficult for me to know what is what. But it's always good to have things like this in sort of layers. Look, you can put everything inside a layer and everything will collapse into that. Okay? So you can do something similar for this system, okay? And what you can do is, let me select this. Yeah. So what you can do is you can actually to turn things into an actual system that you can have like a little drop down sort of menu thing, and we turn it. They are here in Unreal. They're called groups. Okay? So we can turn this into the actual group, and then anything that we can put that is related to base color, we can put it under that group. Okay. And what you can do that is you can just very easily take this, okay, and then just turn it into, if you go here into the material expression of this section, you have there, you can actually create a group here. Okay, at the moment you got no group. Okay, so if you click here and write a group, let's call this group number 1. Again, that's just a naming convention, and I call this texture. What is it up? So textures input. Okay, inputs. So I know that this is the group that's going to have all the texture inputs. Okay. Okay. And I'm going to call this what is it called? Just number 1. So if I apply this, okay. Okay, if I go to text, now you can see that now there is a group here called textures input. So you see I can drop it down, I can open and close it. Look, that will give me a little bit of an ability for me to actually have a bit more control. Like here you got the layer, like the other one, you can see I got layer 2, and I got layer enable. You see I can close the whole thing, even the dust thing, I can open it and close it. So just to give things a bit more organized. And the same we're doing here. You can now have this. And it's pretty simple, okay? So let's do the stuff, the classic stuff, which is the normal, okay? And we're gonna do the actual PSM, or I call it RMIA. So again, we type tab and we create a texture sample. Okay, texture sample. Okay, we're gonna create one more. We're gonna perhaps copy and paste this. Okay, and this one we're gonna call it RMLO. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna go here, RMLO, and let me rename it. That will be. Oops, why did that happen? Okay, I'm here. So take the sample. At the moment, because I had that that's another thing. When you have something selected in here, every time you create a new texture, it will automatically assign it to it. You see what happened here? So because I had this selected here, okay. So if I had this selected, that's the one that will attach to this automatically. Let me close this just now to minimize it. So here I'm gonna rename this guy, and I think I'm gonna press F2 to rename. I think it makes a copy. Sorry, because it got the same texture. It doesn't allow me to change the name. You see, because it got the same sort of thing. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna delete this for now, and then I'm gonna go here, and then I'm gonna select anything. So I'm gonna start from texture sample. Okay, and you see now here I will have okay, so parameter default. So okay, one second. I just need to get it sorted here. I don't know. I'm getting a little bit confused here. So, okay, so we got this. We're gonna here. We're just gonna go into this selection, and I'm gonna select this. No, I go on RMO here, which is this one. RMO field 128 by 128. So I'm gonna select this dude. Okay, if you open it here, I have already in here the stuff that I talked to you about. I need to have in mask no sRGB because this one would be roughness, metallic, and ambient occlusion. Guys, if you want to change the position how you put things, that's up to you. I'm just assuming that this will have the roughness in the green, the metallic in the blue, and the roughness in the red, the metallic in the green, and the ambient occlusion in the blue. If you do it differently, that's up to you. Okay, so now I'm gonna take this and I'm just gonna select this one, RMO, okay, and in this one here, I'm just going to click here and then attach it, okay. So I got that there, okay, and then here I'm going to right click. I'm gonna turn it into convert to a parameter, and then that parameter is gonna call RMAO, okay, and then here I'm gonna create another one, texture sample. Okay, and again this one, because I had that one selected, you see automatically created. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back here and I'm going to select my normal little one that I have for normal, which is 128, 128. With that one selected, I go back here, and then with this one selected, I just click here and it will fill it for me. And then this one again, I'm going to turn it into a parameter. Okay, and that parameter is going to call normal, not normal, but normal. Okay. And again, this will be the classic thing you have to do. You take this, you take the RGB. Now remember that this one is already being in place, and it has, if you double click on this has already the setup accordingly done for a normal map. So you have to make sure that those things are taken care of, the same with the RMLO or whatever TSM you want to call it. So I take the RGB from here and I just connect it into the normal classic stuff. And here I'm going to connect again. I'm assuming in this case, because my workflow says that in the red I will have the roughness, okay, in the green I will have the metallic, okay, and in the blue I will have the ambient occlusion, okay. So this is what it is at the moment, okay. So I say this, and now let's check out what the instant look like. So you can see now I have all this stuff in here. Okay, so I can change it. I can go here into normal, click here, and I can find another normal, like maintain rusty. Okay, you can see that the normal is there. Look, it's just the UVs for this is too small because designed to have something a bit more detailed. Anyway, so you can click here and then bring it back to normal. Okay. You need to create something like data. It's a clean canvas, nothing into it, and that's why we use this little texture, because you don't have to have big amount of data there. So, but the problem is now textures in here, look, and these guys are out. So we need to put these guys into the same group of texture input, because that's what it is. These are the texture inputs, and that will keep things clean for us. So what we have to do is select this guy, okay, and then here we just click and then tell it, hey, this guy is part of the same group. Okay, so we save, we apply that, and then let's test a little bit of MI, what it looks like, the instance. You can see now they are in the same group. Look. So now this guy here, I can, with a single drop-down menu here, I can just hide them temporarily to clean my UI. So I have this. Now the order of how this goes, it will be up to you, how you connect them. You can change the order by assigning a number in this section, which is sort priority. Sort priority says control where the parameter display in the material instant parameter list. The lower the number, the higher up in the parameter list. So, for example, if I say, it says this is, so the lower the number, the higher in the parameters. So I would say this is, let's say that this is 0, okay, this is 1, and this is 3, okay. So according to the tooltip here says that this number tells us that the lower the number, the higher the priority, the higher up in the parameter list. So we put this one with the lowest, 0, 1, 2, or 3. It doesn't matter there. You can put it 2 as well. So we apply this. Now, according to this, normal should be on the top, then the RMO and the base color. And that's how it is. Look. Now, normal's on the top, RMA is in the middle, and base color is at the bottom. If you want to change this, all you have to do is go here and then change the order. This is going to be 0. This is going to be 1. This is going to be 2. So you can actually, with this little number, you can organize your UI in a way that you can actually make it a little bit more readable for you, or it makes sense for you. For those who have a little bit of OCD like me, I like to keep my base on top, the RMO, the way I put them here, and then the normal at the bottom. So when I apply this, then I should go back to the instance, and you see I change the order. Now my base color is on top, the RMO is in the middle, and then normal at the bottom. That doesn't make any change to the shader whatsoever. It's only the UI. Okay. So when we have this, then we have the basic elements. Okay. So the basic elements here are this, and this is what the majority of you have done so far, and which is fine. And I think some of you have actually gone a little bit further and add controls to the base color and the individual elements and the normal, which is great. But as well, some of you have even gone even more, which actually doing layers and stuff like that, and then that's great. But I think, so again, I'm doing this for everybody, so everybody have a good understanding and creating the materials. Okay. So now that we have this, now we have the ability to know that, for example, this stuff here, okay, has this input called UVs. Okay? UVs, UVs, UVs. In Maya, that's equivalent on what you have every time you assign a texture. In Maya, you notice that an extra node is created automatically with you, which is the place to the texture, I think it is. And that node is the one that controls the UVs. Okay, and the same here. The UVs are there, okay, and you have the ability to manipulate them. But at the moment, there is no input for that because we don't have anything to work on that. Okay, so what happened now? Ideally, I want to have a system here that allows me to have a little bit more control over my UVs. That will allow me to offset the UVs, rotate the UVs, and tile the UVs. Okay, so you have the ability to do that. Okay, so how do we do that? Okay, so we know that there is a node for that, and that node is you go here and you go the, I think it's called the coordinates. Okay, and it's called I don't know sure about you guys, but I find the coordinate thing here. So I think it's called texture coordinates. Yeah, texture coordinates. So it's a bit tricky sometimes to find. So this node is the one that you always attach to. Okay, and this node is the one that tells you, hey, I have the control of tweaking this by assigning something here or some control in here. And you can see that this one doesn't have any input because it's sort of like the beginning or at the end of where everything starts. Actually, where everything starts from here and then collate to the right hand side, because this is the one that controls the UV. And you can put some stuff in here, so nodes that control the UVs, and then I'll put it to every single one of the UVs. Okay. Now you see that you have the ability to change the index. Okay? Remember that you can have several index in your geometry. You see, for example, in my elements, if I click on this one and I open it in the asset browser thing here, so you know that this guy here has 3 UVs. One is for the tileable thing that I did with the mask. I'm probably going to cover in this one, hopefully, maybe in the next class, because we might run out of time. And then the other one, which is a tileable, and then a third one, which is for the light mask. Okay, so I can use any of this if I want. I can have as many as I want. Well, there's going to be a limit, I suppose, because it gets too heavy, but you can have quite a few if you want. The same, so we can, by going into the test, we can say that we can actually change this. We can click A, I can use any, and they're all integer numbers here, you can see. Because they're only, you're not going to have a UV set 0.2 or 0.5 or 1.2, it's only UV index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, integer. So by default it's 0, assume that everything you want to texture is in the 0, and the only one texture coordinate that you have. Okay, so what we normally do is we do this. Okay, we take this and we just connect it to this, and we connect it to all of them, and then it just works. Okay, but we need to have a little bit more control over it, because we would like to tile it, we would like to rotate it if we want to, and I'll show you how to do the rotation, and we would like to as well offset it. Okay, sometimes you find that you create a texture and it has a little bit of a black blotch in the middle, and you want to shift it to one side because you don't like it right there where it's positioned. With this, you will have the ability to do that. Okay, so how do we do that? Okay, let me do that thing. So at the moment, I did that element by having the ability to actually creating a function and then just use a function regularly all throughout. But because we're not going to cover function because it'd be too advanced or be advanced and confusing, I think. Let me rephrase that. I'm pretty sure all of you can get that, but it's just that the problem we have is that the functions in Unreal Engine 4, they're probably going to disappear. And I think I mentioned to you before, it's going to be replaced by the material layer editor, which is something that is pretty much just like materials that you create like in RenderMan and things like that. So you don't have to, you have to create 2 materials and then layer with 1 mask, and that's it. You don't have to create functions, everything is quite neat and organized. So I believe that that's the way forward. So I'm gonna, it's still experimental, so I try to use it in my project, and I mentioned it crashes every time I use it, so I just say I'm gonna go through the function because it's still not commercially available or stable. Anyway, so we're gonna go here with the basic stuff. So again, so we have coordinate 0. So how do we, let's start with one thing first. So let's do we have coordinate here 0. We save this, nothing happens. We go here into the material instance, and you see nothing happened. The UI is exactly the same. So what do we do in order to start, let's say, tiling? Okay, so the tiling is, what you have to do is in order to tile your what is it called, that let me put it here. 1 second. Yeah, in order to tile thing, what you have to do is multiply. Okay, all you have to do is multiply by something. Okay, the tileable thing said that the UV tiling is 1, 1, 1, 1 here, and if you want to multiply things, all you have to do is multiply the tiling. You can either individually, you have the ability to do it on the U side or the V side, or you can do it together at the same time or whatever. For example, at the moment here, I will not be able to see it because I only have a grayscale, but let's see if we here temporarily we put one of this one with the numbers so we can actually see what's happening. So I'm going to select this guy here just temporarily, and I'm going to attach it to this. So you can see that this one will have just let's see, number 1. So I'm going to put a box here so you can see it. So it's just number 1. So this will allow me to tile things. So if I go into here and I say 3 by 3, okay, I'm tiling the material 3 by 3. You can see now I have the ability to have 3 times more on 1, 2, 3 and 1, 2, 3 times more into an actual UV tile. I believe this, because this is a built-in box in Unreal, then it would probably say that every single phase in the 0 to 1. We can find the box somewhere and then just check out the UV. But I don't think you can change. You can check it here. I don't think so. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So you can see that I have 3 by 3. Okay, but this is not very efficient, because what happened is that everything stays in here. So it would be nice to have a parameter for that. So we can do that. Okay, the parameter is, rarely you will multiply these guys one individually. You normally multiply those at the same time. So you can do it. You can multiply that by the actual UVs as they are. At the moment you're going to say UV0, I want to tile it. So how do you do that? You press M and click. That is the multiply node, which is, you're going to multiply this. Okay? And what you do is, you're going to make it 3 times, you multiply by 3. 4 times, you make it multiply by 4. So I'm gonna do this, and I'm just gonna at the moment the constant A, which is the one that I connected here, is the actual UVs, and the constant B is 1. So if I click this, and then now clicking here, okay, then nothing happened. You can see it's 1. But if I put here 2 or 4, then you can see that everything is automatically multiplying all axes, okay? And this axis will be U and B. So one number does everything. And that would be cool to have as a parameter. So what you can do is, you can just, I think if you create a parameter, you press S, click, I think it is, and then you create a scalar. But let me go back again how to do this 2 ways. So if you press 1 and click, you will get 1 scalar. If you press 2 and click, you will have something that has a vector of 2 values. And you have 3 and click, you will have something that has 3 values, or a color. Okay, but we only need 1 number. Okay, so if you want to have individual control of this, then you will have to create something a bit more complex, but it's rarely. So we're going to keep it just as it is now, with a single number multiplying everything. Okay, so again, if we click here and put 0, look at the default 0. Look what happened. The texture is pretty much gone. And the reason for that is because we're multiplying the UVs by 0. So what we're doing is, remember the UVs in Maya, when they are like in a flat section, they will pretty much everything multiplies by 0. It goes into the corner. So all the UVs are here somewhere in a little corner with nothing. So we know that this guy should be at least 1, and then it works. Okay, and now as soon as you start increasing this number, you just click here and hover. You can see you can get even not 100% accurate numbers like 3, 4, 5 integer. You can get sort of float numbers, and it gets, I think it's a point it gets a little bit busy. Okay, so and again, so we know that this guy should be 1 by default. But again, if we apply this, okay, we still go back to the MI, and we don't have the ability to do anything to this. Okay. So what happens? So we need to turn this guy into a parameter, and you have to right click, convert to a parameter, okay, and then you rename this guy. I'm gonna call this guy UV, okay, underscore tiling, okay, UV underscore tiling. The default value 1. If you put it to 0, you will have the issue as mentioned, and you can as well, you can put minimums and maximums if you want to. But here I'm just going to keep it like that. So I'm going to do this, and now when I save, okay, I go here, and you can see that now I have the ability to do that. So I can click on UV tiling, and then I can easily UV tile my texture. I can go less than 1, more than 1, and so forth. Okay, and then when I click this button, it will automatically take me to 1. Okay, because I take this guy and I told him that the default value is 1. Now, if you notice this, you can see that this guy now is not part of the texture. So it's up to you what you want to do it. I like to put my UVs control right on the top of all the input of the texture, because it makes sense to me. Say, well, if I want to do UV, I can put it here. So in that case, what you can do is you can change the order of these guys. So we say that this guy has the order. First of all, we need to add it to the group. That's what we have to do. We have to click here and then texture input. So now it's part of the group. We save this. We go back to the MI, and you can see now that this guy is part of the group. Now you can see now I can close and open it, and it's there. But I don't like the position at the bottom. I want to here put it on top. So what I have to do is I have to go here and then change the order of these guys. So I know that this guy I put it to be 1, 1, 1, 2. Well, that would work because that will be 1, 1, 2. I like it that way. I'll put this one 0. So I'm putting this one to 0 and saving. I can see that my UV tiling is on the top now. And by the way, guys, you can always put the thing with the same number like I did here. If you want to be more specific, you can say 0, 2, and this one 3. If you want to be crazy about it. So if you put the same number, I think it will sort of based on the naming of the parameter, it will put it alphabetically if it's on top or the bottom. So, but it's up to you how you want to do it. So I'll go this. So now I have the ability in my shader to actually, on my material, to actually tile. Now I want to go a little bit further, okay, and add a little bit more functionality. And that functionality would be to actually offset the UVs, okay? And the offsetting of the UVs, you have to add something to it, because you think about it, when you have UVs, you go 0 to 1 here, and you put another UV here, that will be the 1 to 1, the 2 to 2, the 3 to 3, so and it will go up as well if you want in Maya. So you have to add, multiply UVs by the multiply a number by the UVs, change the scale. If you multiply, if you want to multiply something by 0.5, we'll put it right here, which make everything bigger because you're covering less space now, and then the UVs will be bigger. And if you put something by 2, then you see you can put more stuff into a single 0 to 1. If you want to add an offset, then you have to add to this. And again, if you want to add, what you have to do is add numbers to it. Okay, but you have to bear in mind, do you want to offset things on a individual basis? Like if I offset UVs, can I offset V as well? Makes sense to have them individually. So we're going to have it with two numbers. Okay. Now, before we continue, I want to make a note and saying that when you have UVs, you have two channels. You have red and you have green. The blue is ignored because I don't know if you've seen it, but if I take this guy here and then if I right click on this guy here and then say start previewing this node, you will start seeing that this node is in here. You can see, look, this is what happens. So what's happening is that these UVs are red and green in a combination of both, because the red is U and it goes from 0 to 100% red, and the green will go from 0 to 100% green, and when both are 1 and 1 in this corner, they will go yellow, which is if you add red and green, you get yellow. So which means that if we want to offset, we need to offset on one channel and we have to offset in another channel. Okay? So I'm gonna stop previewing this. So what we have to do is we have to treat them individually. Okay? And for that we need to actually create two numbers, turn them into parameters, append them with a node called append, which means, hey, convert these two numbers into an actual vector of two values. In computer graphics, a vector is something that has more than one value. For example, the normals are vectors because they have 3 coordinates. It has an x, y, and z. Or two vectors, in this case, UV has 2 components, which is x and y, or u and v. So for that case, we need to treat them individually. So I'm going to press 1, 1, and we know that we have these two elements. So this is going to be U, this is going to be V. Okay? So we need to take these two guys and then combine them into an actual component. We could have done this too, but then this one we don't have control over the individual one. Okay? So we have to have them individually like this. We have to right click and convert them into parameters, or you can just completely convert them into parameters straight away by pressing S and click. That will be scalar, which means is a number that is a simple number, and then you turn it into an actual into an actual parameter. You save one step if you do that. So we can do this time with this. Instead of clicking one and click, we can do it just press S and click, because we know we're going to turn this into a parameter. So this guy is going to be called U offset. Okay. And this guy is going to be, and then we press again, S click, and we're going to call this guy V offset. Okay. Now we do that. Okay. And then we need to turn these two guys into a parameter. Okay? The default is going to be 0. Remember, we're adding is different from when we multiply. If we multiply, if we put the default to 0, it will kill it. But if we add 0, it makes no difference. So we need to make sure that the parameter is on 0 at default here. So there is a node here called append, which converts two values into a single vector. So I think it's append vector. Yeah. So this one I will say this and this. Okay. So if I turn this to, and if I start previewing this, what it will give me? It will give me nothing. It will give me black. So this guy is black. This guy is black. So if I put this one to 1, then it starts giving me the green. You see, it's 1. If I put this to 1, it turns into yellow because I'm combining those two. Okay, and if I give a 0.5 of each, then I will get a dimmed yellow. So we know that we have to put these two guys on 0. Okay, and the reason they don't go like the ones in here, because this is just numbers. This stuff is a bit more complicated. You need to understand the coordinate system, how it works. This is something that is written coded in C++. I mean, just know how this works. This is just numbers, so you don't have anything to establish this sort of arrangement. So we go here and say stop reviewing, and then we will preview the shade at the end. So we take these two, offset U, offset V. We know that this guy here, it would be nice to have him automatically in the actual group. Again, we select this guy and then we add it to this group texture. Okay. Then we have these two guys, so we append these two guys. Now we know that the value that we have from here, we have to add this stuff over here. So again, you press A and click. That's the add button, the add node. We're gonna add the current UVs, tile or not, and we're gonna add two numbers that will allow us to offset the UVs either in U and V depending on the value we put in. At the moment, it doesn't make any difference. If you start previewing this, you see it makes no difference. But if we change this guy to 4, for example, you see that, well, it's just because it goes beyond that, so it would not, sorry, I would not be able to change it because it doesn't understand it. So again, so I'm gonna stop previewing this. Okay, so we know U and V, append, turn this into a component that will allow me to go with the same two components we have here, U and V. We add it to whatever we did together, and then we connect these two into the U. Okay. And if we apply this, let's see what happens. We have this, go into the MI, seems like nothing happened. Let's put the same here so we can know. Okay, but now we have the ability to click U, and then we can offset it. Look. So now we can offset U whatever we want, and we can offset V whatever we want. So now we have that ability there. Very simple stuff. Okay, but again, I like to have these two dudes all the way to the top. So what I do is, I know that I already put these numbers here, 0, 1, 2, and I'm going to change this. So I'm going to add the same number that I did with this, 0. And I don't care if the tile is on top or these two are below, so I'm going to put them 0 as well here. Okay, so I go here, 0 and 0. So those are 0, 0, 0 with this, and then this guy is 1, 2, and 3. So let's apply this. And now I have them on top here. I don't care how they are. Well, if you are quiet and say, oh, I'd like to have this guy with this guy, then go back here and then rename things accordingly. Put it 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if you want. But I don't want to do that. So again, I have it here, so I can it still work. And I can just even tile things out. I can offset it. So I can create something more unique. Okay. And as well, it's a good way to test your materials that are actually tileable, the base color that you create. Okay, so now we have that ability. Okay, now we're gonna add something later on, which is the one that I talked to you about, which is how to switch the UVs. And we're gonna do that later on at some other point when this is a bit more developed. Okay, so this will be our UV system, basic stuff. Okay, but remember that in being consistent with everything, if I change this, I would like to change the RMO and the normal because they're all tileable. So I click here and I connect these two to all of them. The UVs are this, and I connect this to the UVs right here. So now this guy controls everything. So now what I would like to do is, I have pretty much the basic. I have the ability to offset, I have the ability to tile. I think it would be cool if we can add the ability to rotate. Okay? Okay? And there is an actual node for that. Okay? That will be the last node here. I don't know how can you can, like in Sufton, how can you can just connect the things at the end, but I'll see if we can figure it out. Anyway, so there is a node for that called custom rotator. So we create type and we type rotator. Okay? Custom rotator. This is the node that I use in here to do the rotation of the two textures that I have here. So I can have this look with noise and the wobbliness and sine cosine. It's a bit more advanced, but that is what I did. I pretty much took two textures and I rotated one in one direction and another one in another direction. So let's go see what I need to do. So here, the custom rotator needs the UVs, which is this one. Okay, you can actually have and this is a very good point actually. Every time you see this function like do that, you double click them, you can see their stuff they're already done with functions, and these are the functions. But this is something that comes with Unreal Engine. You can see the material function, and this is something that you can actually encapsulate in a single bit, and you can just call it whatever you want. But we don't want to cover that now. But my point is that every time you want to know what you can connect to, look at this little parenthesis here. This guy is telling you that the UVs needs to have a vector of two components. And this is what we have here, a vector of two components. This is a vector of two components. And then here it needs an extra entry, which is rotation center, another vector. Now the rotation center, what it is, it tells you from which point do you want to rotate. By default, it says here is 0.5, 0.5, which is pretty much going to be rotating from the middle. So everything is going to rotate around this point. And the angle is a single value, okay, that goes from 0 to 1, and you call the letter S, which means scalar. Scalar is a single float value, something that goes from 0 to whatever, and it has 0.1, 1.2. You can have actually floating numbers, okay? So this one we can ignore, because rarely you're going to say, I'm going to rotate it from this corner, from this corner. If you want that, great. If you don't need that, then you can just ignore it. It will take the default, which is 0.5, 0.5. This one goes from 0 to 1. Okay, so you need to cap this thing from 0 to 1. And what it does is, it inserts a value that goes from 0 to 1, and it's the value 1 is equal to 360 degrees. Okay? And if you continue, it will continue further. So I think it would be cool if we can have this guy with an actual parameter. Okay, and for that we can press one click, convert it to parameter, or we can just do the shortcut, which is S for scalar, click, and then you will have a parameter. And then we're gonna call this UV rotate. Okay, so UV rotate. Okay, remember that the number it needs 0 to 1 when 1 is equal to 360 degree turn. So we have to have a default value of 0 because we don't have to start with some rotation automatically. So we keep this guy here, and then we add it to the group, and we give it the number 0 as well. So we keep it on top. So I like to have all the UV stuff on top. And we connect it to this, and then we now have to connect this stuff to here. Now, does anybody know by any chance how to connect nodes directly from here to here without having to go one by one? There, like I know that it's shift click in Sufton Designer, but I don't know if it's clicking here, so I'm gonna try. It doesn't work. So anybody knows? Wake up, guys.
Nah, I don't know.
No? Everybody being sleeping, I guess. Okay, let's do it. Let's do it by hand then. So what you have to do is take this dude here, connect it there, and connect it here, and connect it here. Okay, a little bit. Oops. It must be a shortcut, guys. You Google it there for me. Just let me know. I'm not crazy good at this when it comes to precision. My mouse is not very. Yeah. That. Okay. So now that if we apply this, now we have a pretty good capability to work in our material. You have the ability to, for example, you have the ability to, it's here, so the rotates in the middle, that's fine. So I have the ability to change the scale. I have the ability to offset them in any direction, U and B, and I have now the ability to rotate. So I can now rotate my texture, see? And I can keep going and keep going, and it's just gonna keep rotating. Doesn't matter. It's just going from 0 to 60, and then 720, and then whatever. So now we have something that is pretty solid when it comes to UVs at the moment. The rest is still very early. So I think this will be cool to have it in an actual sort of box that we can actually know and move it. I believe is you press C, yeah, that's correct. You create a box. And then the box is just a simple way to clean up things and then have everything organized. And I think you've seen him continuously in many places. And I've seen you as well in your project as well. So we're gonna name this guy UV UV tweaks, I suppose. Okay, UV tweaks. And now I don't have to select this, I have to select the box and I can move things around and then organize things easily. Okay. So now I have the ability to actually tweak the UV. So that's pretty much done in this section, I think. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create a little bit of an extra bit here, which is the one that we're going to start working on the individual elements. So we're going to create something that have the ability to tweak base color, something that have the ability to tweak the actual RMO, and something that had the ability to actually tweak the normal if we want to. Okay, and then we're going to add more. So we're going to build on this. And I think it would be cool to have just here this, and then I believe you can, if you press Alt and click, I think, oh no, Alt and click deletes. I think, I don't remember how to do the actual points. I think, I can't remember it. Oh no, it's just click Control plus it. I don't remember. So if somebody knows how to do the,
Is it Alt and click?
I think if
that's what it is.
Alt click, right?
That's what it is in Substance Designer. But
yeah, but yeah, it's not here. Yeah. So if somebody knows, let us know, guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all these three and I'm going to do the same. Press C for comment and I'm going to call this guy textures input. So now I have something that I can work on. I can scale it out if we want. We can change the color as well. You can make it fancy. You can do here and then I believe you can change the color. Text color, comment color. You can do whatever. If you want to have a headache, you can put bright red or whatever. So let's put it like that. So it's a little bit more color there. So this guy is called texture input, so I can move it around if I want. So I have this. So now here I'm gonna create something before we close this up for today, because otherwise everybody's gonna fall asleep and I have to see your work. I'm gonna put here something, a logic that allows me to have the ability to tweak the color of this guy. Because remember, if you have something that is, you paint something that is, let's say you paint a paint for, I don't know, for let's say you have the ability to you paint a barrel red and then you say, oh, actually I need the barrel to be green. You can actually, instead of going creating a green texture, you can actually take the red and then tweak it until you get the color you want. And for that we need to have the ability, the logic here that will allow us to tweak that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create several groups. One is going to be base color tweaks, another one is going to be called roughness tweaks, another going to be called metallic tweaks, and blah blah blah. So we're going to have things organized. Okay, I like to work organized. So first thing first, the first thing you would like to do in any color is change the intensity. Make it brighter, make it darker. That's all you have to do. So how do we do that? If you have a color or a vector. Remember, the color is a vector, just 3 colors, red, green, and blue, and an alpha if you have to. Then you have the ability to change the color simply by just doing the multiplying. If you multiply by a number, you will get the ability to take it to sorry, brighter or darker. And for that, we need to create that logic here. And the first step is to have the ability to have a base color multiplier. So again, we press M to multiply, and we're going to connect the color here, and we're going to multiply by something. So if you start previewing this like that, okay, we're just getting, that's why it looks the shading, because it's only using the material, the texture, the color. If you take this, and you can see if you multiply this by something brighter, it gets blown out, and if you multiply by 0.1, it gets darker. That's all what you have to do. So we need to have the control to tweak this color if we want to. So again, we press S, click, okay, just for a scalar, or you can press 1 and then right click, convert to parameter. It's the same principle. So here I'm gonna call this guy base color multiply. You can call it whatever you want. I'm gonna call it multiply, or you can call it intensity. Now, if we want to use this as a default, I think it will be wise to keep this as a default color of 1, because if you multiply something by 1, it doesn't make any difference. Okay. So if we start with 0, then all our texture will be dark or nearly black, pretty much, and it will not work. So what you have to do is keep number here that you know it will not interfere with the original texture as you brought it, and then you will have the ability to tweak things out. Whatever you put here will be the default value that the shader takes once you make an instance. Okay. So I'm gonna turn it. I can add it to this group, but no, I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna create my own new group, and that own new group is gonna be called. That own new group is gonna be called now. I'm gonna type here. If you don't have any, if you select this, it will go to that. But if you click in none and then you start typing, then we say 2 underscore or whatever it is, and we're gonna call this base color tweaks. Okay. And then again, this will be, I can give it this guy a priority of 0, so it will be on the top. And then I can take this guy, okay, and then connect it to the base color. Okay. And now I will stop previewing this. And now when I compile this, apply, say whatever, then here I will have a new entry here, look, called base color tweaks. Now I have the ability to tweak my color, turn it to black, turn it to white, right? Because it's being multiplied by the intensity, okay? Again, I know that some of you have done this guy, but I wanted to cover for everybody, so I hope you appreciate that. So, so we have this. We have pretty much the starting point with it. So we know that we have now the ability to change the intensity, okay? So that will only change the value of the texture. It will not change the tint of the texture. And I think now that we have the value, we can actually tint it a little bit, okay? And the tint, we can tell them, hey, let's tint this stuff red, green, blue, whatever. We could essentially just put another multiply and then put a color and then multiply by that color, okay? But we could make use of the not traditional, like the standard blending mode that you will have in Photoshop. Now, those modes that you have in Photoshop, like overlay, multiply, screen, all those things, they are available here in the shader context or the material context of Unreal, and they're called blend, overlay, or whatever. So we type blend, okay, you have here, look, blend, overlay, blend screen, blend soft light. Those numbers ring the bell, right? Color burn, color dodge, darken, difference, exclusion. That is the blending mode from Photoshop. So here you have the ability to do that. So when you want to change the tint of a material or a color in Photoshop, you use you put a color in a layer on top, and then you do overlay, and it will give you the color on top. So if you want to make something with like a photo filter, you put a photo filter on top, and then you put overlay, and then it will color everything with that color. So pretty much what we're doing is like putting a lens or filter on the lens, or in this case the color, and then we put it on top. And for that we're going to use overlay. Okay, you can use anything. You can use, for example, for your ambient occlusion, you want to blend to ambient occlusion, you can use blend multiply, which is the one that you normally use in Photoshop when you have a normal an ambient occlusion. Okay, so I'm gonna type here and I'm gonna call blend overlay. Okay, and the blend overlay have the base. You can see here again the result, the hint tells that this needs a vector of 3, red, green, blue, and it needs as well the blend, which is the color, another vector of 3 or a color. Okay, so what we have to do is we have to create a parameter for that. Okay, so again, if we connect this guy here, okay, and if we type this guy start previewing, oh, this one will not give us unless we connect something to this because it hasn't got a built-in function. So what we have to do is let's press 3 click. I will give us something that has 3 colors in this case. Let's type something that is yellow, 1, 1, 0. Yeah, so if we type this and we overlay this on top, and if we start previewing, you will see that everything goes yellow. Still preserve the red. Look, that's the beauty of this. Preserve the red that was originally, but it lays on top yellow and it still preserves the colors. If you want to turn this a little bit of a different color, then you can just add a little bit of a blue, and then we'll go a little bit there. So you have the ability now to work with it. By default, if you put 0, everything goes to black because you're overlaying black on top. So I'm going to stop previewing this, and then now I'm going to turn this guy into a parameter. So I say start previewing, convert to parameter, and then we're going to name this guy base color tint. Okay, and we're going to give you a default. And the default should be, oops, what's the default? Default should be alpha 0 now, alpha should be 1. And we're going to give you a default of 1, 1, 1. Okay, 1, 1, 1, 1. So it's solid, opaque, and with a color 1. If you overlay white on top of that, it will not change anything. You can see here, start previewing this node, it's this. Start previewing this node, it's that. Okay, so I think, well, I'm sorry, I think if you start previewing white, it will make it white. So we have to turn this to, I believe, 0.5, I believe. Yeah, I think, yeah, you have to keep everything this in 0.5 so it will not be affected because it uses the 0.5 as a starting point. So you see, start previewing this, start previewing this. You see, you haven't tweaked it. So keep this at 0.5 and then the alpha on 1. Okay, so again, this guy should be now in the base color tweaks, and then let's give in, we gave this guy 0, now let's give this guy below 1, so just below that one. Okay, and again we're going to connect this guy into here. Let's see what it looks like now. Okay, I'm gonna stop reviewing this, and I'm just gonna save it. Okay, let's have a look, and then see here what happens. So again, we have now this nice entry, and here we have the ability to now say, hey, I'm going to tint this guy. Cool. I'm gonna click here, and I'm gonna tint it blue, yellow, orange. I can change the color, but it sort of preserves still the color, the original color, a little bit. So I think this is the more accurate way of tinting something instead of just using a multiply, because if you multiply a color by another color, you will normally don't get a real accurate output. But with this, you will have something that's a bit more accurate, I believe. Anyway. So that's what I normally do when I have stuff in Photoshop. So again, I tweak this. You see, by default it's 0.5. I do this, okay. And again, if I want to make it darker, I can still make it darker. I can still use a different color. It will be red darker, and then it will work because I'm multiplying this. I can make it darker, I can make it brighter, I can do anything I want. Okay. So I want to uncheck this because that's the default, and then we're going back to this. Okay. So now we have the ability to change color, and now they have the ability to change intensity. Now the issue that we have at the moment is this. Now, we have this guy, right? And then we say, okay, I can change the intensity and I can change the color with this. But how about if I have the ability to actually say how much I want to add it? Because instead of me going and changing the color and saying, well, it's a bit too red, but I would like to have a little bit less red, so I have to go and find the right amount of red and all. I will say, well, how about I have red everything the way I want it, and then I have a little bit of a parameter that let me blend between my original color and the color that I already tinted. I think that would be cool to have that idea, that actual parameter in there. Okay, and for that, we're just gonna create something that the majority of you have done, which is alert. And I'm gonna explain to you guys what alert is, because that's a basic concept that you should all master, because it's something that you will keep using throughout the whole material construction. So, sorry, just been talking too much. So, anybody got any questions so far, guys, before I continue?
Yeah, Louis.
Yeah.
Is there any way to change like the pink on the number one, like specifically?
Any way to change what inside the master material or in the instance?
Inside the instance, like, is there any way?
In here, the instance.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would, because the thing is, we turn this guy into a parameter, so that parameter is available here. Look, all you have to do is click it and say, I'm gonna change it to something else, and then I say, yeah, I'm gonna use one of my textures here. Let's use, I don't know, anything in here will work. I'll say paint. No, I guess it just hide. Know what I work. Give me an error because it's got a different setup.
I mean, like, is there a way to set up like a parameter to change the color of the pink of the number ones, if that makes sense?
Oh yes, because that would be part of the actual texturing process for you. Because what you can do is That's a very good question, because I was going to mention that at some point. If you were texturing this and you say, okay, I'm going to tint the whole color, and this is very important because let's work a case scenario here. Let's say that you have a wall that have a panel that is painted, right? And a panel, and the rest is metal, right?
Yeah.
Right? So if you say, oh, I like this wall, but then I want to use that texture somewhere else, but I don't want to have the wall to be red, I want the wall to be blue, for example. Now, if you tint this stuff in here as it is, it will affect the metal as well, because the metal comes out through the base color as the reflectance value of the metal. So if you change everything, let's say bluish, and start looking like a painted blue metal, so what you can do in order to say, hey, I only want to change, let's say that the ones are the paint and the gray are the metal. So if you change the tint here, it will change everything, correct? And you don't want that. So what you have to do is, when you export your textures, whatever texturing software you're using, you can make use of the alpha channel. Put a mask in the alpha channel, and then output the alpha channel here, and then multiply this blend by that stuff here, and then it will be killed only on that area. Do you understand that?
It's the same process. You just use an alpha.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair.
Is in here you can just, because you go red, green, and blue, but then you go an extra channel you can make use of, or you can put it here, or even you can put it here if you want. You can put an alpha in the normal.
And then it would just be really useful.
Yeah, exactly. So if you want to take, let's say, I don't have a texture for this, but let's say that you have an alpha here that is, I don't know, black and white. Let's recreate it by using this. I'm gonna take this, and then I'm gonna recreate what you just asked me. I'm gonna press 3 click, and it will we'll take texture sample. It will select this. You see the one that I have selected. So now I have the ability to use the red, the green, or the blue, and then it's magic that you have only the red as a black and white image attached to this. Okay. So what you can do is you can take here, press M to multiply. You can just multiply the tint that you have, only multiply by the red channel, Okay. So when you start previewing this, you see it will only affect here. The rest will be ignored.
See, yeah.
So you take, for example, a color here, red, or whatever. You only tint in that area, you see? Because you only take in this section, which is the red channel. If you take the green, it will be there. You take the blue, which is the bar at the bottom, it will be this. You see? So now imagine that it's not this bar, but it's just an alpha black and white that has the numbers. Where the number is white and where the gray is black. So what happens is you will do that, and then you will have to do a little bit of a lerp, because that you will kill the rest of the stuff. You have to lerp it. And I'll show that that's the next stage, which is lerping. Okay? So do you understand the idea of that?
Yeah, cheers for that, Louis.
Alright, no problem. So I think so you got this, okay? So now again, going back to so that answered your question. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. So what we can do is we can actually blend the amount and then do another lerp just for that section. So now we have now the ability here to here you see a mess just because because it hasn't been compiled, so I have to apply it and then it will update here. You see updates here. So okay, let's go back to this. So again, we have the ability to change the intensity, we have the ability to change the tint, but now it would be cool to have the ability to say how much I want to blend this color with the original color. Okay. So for that, we're going to use something called alert. I think the shortcut is L, click, and it's alert, which is alert. There is several sort of lerp. It's called blends. This is a blend. This is a blend. So let's call one called. This is called linear interpolate. Okay. Which is this one, linear interpolate. There is another one called a spherical interpolate, I believe. I can't remember what it's called, but it's something called a spherical. So pretty much, alert what it does is it blends between two things, between A and B, based on this alpha. So if we lerp the original color and the tinted one, based on a value, then we will be able to tweak how much we add from this guy into the original mix. And for that, we need a control here. And this is a black and white image or a value that goes from 0 to 1 or whatever, a number. So we press 1, click, we connect it here. So what happens if I put here a color by default, let's say red. Okay, we apply this. We have red, and we start looking at this, looking at the start reviewing this node. It's telling me that is because this is 0, this guy is 0, A is 0, B is 1. So when this guy is 0, it will show whatever comes out from A, and it will ignore whatever comes into B. When this guy is 1, it will ignore whatever comes into A and start using whatever comes into B. Okay, that's what you can see now. You can follow the line, goes in there, blend it, and then goes into B. And then B says that this is 0, this is 1. Because I got 1, it's pretty much inputting the full amount of this. So if I put here 0.5, it will give me 50-50. See, that's why it got pink. 50% of the original, and 50% now of the tint. And obviously at the moment this stuff is not workable because you only have a number, so you would like to have that actual control, and for that we just right click on this, compare to a parameter, and we call this base color tint amount, however you want to call it. It makes sense in my head, maybe not to you. And then we say here, what is the default? By default, we would like to keep the original color, so we put it back to 0. So it will input this, and then if you want to tweak it, then you enable it, and then you start tweaking. Okay, and then here, okay, going to the question of color. Now that you have the amount, you can tweak the amount, but then if you want to mask it further, then you can actually create another lerp with that alpha thing that I told you. And I'll show you in a second. But let's make it work first here. So again, I'm gonna click here, and I'm gonna connect this into my base color. Oh, man, I always do that. I'm so crap sometimes with maneuvering inside Unreal. Still not 100% with other software. So here I'm gonna stop previewing this. Okay. So what happened here? I got this guy again. Let's put him into our new group, base color tweak, and we're gonna give it a sort of sort priority. At the moment, this guy is 0. This dude is 1, and this dude now should be 2. So it goes top down, and then this we need to put it back to 0.5 because that's what we want. We don't want to keep it in red to start with, because that would be impractical pretty much. So we apply this, we save this, and now we're going into here, and then you can see that this is what we have. Now look at this. Now we have the tint amount. So let's say that I say, okay, I'm gonna tint this guy, and I'm gonna tint it, I don't know, here with this UI, I'm gonna tint it blue, for example, or some sort of blue here. And say okay, and now at the moment you can see nothing happens because the base color is 0. It's still inputting this color. But you can say, well, actually, I want to put this guy to be, I don't know, I'm gonna start tweaking in this color a little bit. So I'm gonna start introducing this color slowly, slowly, until I have full of it. Look, and I can even go further. I think it doesn't make because it only work from 0 to 1. So if you know that this twist and mix only go from 0 to 1, we can cap this number as well to make the UI a bit more robust. So at the moment, it doesn't. When it goes beyond 1, doesn't do anything. Okay, so we do this. We can tweak this back to 0, 0.5, because that's the default we put inside the master. And then what we can do, we can tweak this. Okay, let's put this in back here, and then we're gonna go to the master material. Take this guy and tell them, hey, the default value is 0, the minimum is going to be 0, and the maximum is going to be 1. So I don't have to go further than 1. So I'm going to save this. Okay, and I click again here, and then I'm going to give it again another color, red, just to test it. And the tweaking here, we're going to say to 1, and that's it. You see, I cannot go any further than 1 because it doesn't make any difference. So again, tweak this, uncheck it, you're going back to square one. Okay, so now we have the ability again to change intensity, to change color, and how much of that color we want to blend with the original by using this level. Now going back to what Connor was talking about, if we want to tweak this guy individually, then I don't have a mask for this, so I'm gonna sort of fake it by assuming that there is an alpha here with the ones in white and the rest in black. And this is quite important, guys, because if you tweak the color for all this and then you have two things, that one stuff is metallic and one stuff is not, then you will tweak everything, and you shouldn't have that. So if you want to put that, you have to make sure that here you have that. When you export your material from Substance Painter, make sure you create some sort of mask and then bake it into or embed it into the alpha. So I'm not going to do it now because I don't want to do that, because I need to wrap this up soon so we can continue next week. But recreating what Connor was talking about is a very good question. So we can do that as well with another layer. Okay, and that layer will be just a single image, black and white. So what I'm going to do is, maybe we might be able to recreate it. Let me check on something here. So if I take this number, oh, actually this number 1 has an alpha, man. Oh man, yeah, I think I did actually do that. No, it doesn't have that. That's me wishful thinking. So let's say red. Oh, I can probably do it with the red. Oh, I can do it with the, no, oh no. You see, they're not 100% black and white. So they should be black and white. But anyway, so ignore. I think this is just. I think I kept the alpha 50% gray. That's why it's a bit see-through. You see, it doesn't matter. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the stuff that I did here with this one. Okay, so I'm gonna take this just to fake it here, and I'm gonna press tab and here, or right click, sorry, and I'm gonna take texture sample, and because I got that stuff selected, it will automatically take it here. So assume that this red channel is the one that's gonna be plugging, is like plugging something from here. Okay, it's equivalent. So what you can do, you can say, hey, I like all this, but I don't want to affect all of it. I just want to affect some part, because if I change the color of this, let's say that that stuff is metallic and this stuff is paint, then it will change the paint as well. And if I add yellow, then start looking, the metal stuff start looking like gold. So you can mask that out further by adding that mask inside, or your metallic or whatever. You can actually do it with the metallic in the actual alpha, and then do that. Or if you are robust enough, you can put them in the metallic from here. Or sorry, that will be the green, which is the metallic, and then use it here. But we're gonna do this here. Again, you create another layer, press L, click, and you're gonna layer between this guy, okay, which is the one that's been blended, I believe, yeah. That no, that will be the, yeah, that this, and I'm going to blend the red channel, and I'm going to blend the one without the overlay, yeah, like this. Okay, so what happened here? Start previewing. So now let's see what happened when I put a color to this, so we can see it. Red. Okay. Let's look to the red channel here, and then we have. Did I do it incorrectly? I said I'm gonna alert on the red channel. I'm gonna alert this. I think it's called a tint amount. At the moment is 0, so I had to fake it by putting a default value of, let's say, 1. So you can see, there you go. So you can see now I suppose because it's the opposite, I had to tweak this. So I had to put B in here, okay, and I had to put this one on A. So let's talk about this. At the moment, I put values in here so I can actually see in viewport. At the moment, you have to put the default will be 0, but we're going to put 1 so we can actually see it. So what is happening here? Color comes in, you multiply it by amount, so you can make it brighter or darker. You take that amount and you pass it with the overlay with this color, and you have it here, but it's not connected. Then you blend that color with the layer based on the amount that you want. You can blend the original with the tinted, okay? And then further along, you can do another blend of blending the tinted part with the original based on an alpha, in this case based on whatever the red channel is. So you're going to use the red channel, white, and then the rest black. So whatever is black is not going, it's going to keep the original color, because remember, this is black and this is 1. So black is the original color, 1 is a tinted one. So whatever is white is going to pass the tinted one. And if you think that is too much, you can still tweak it here, and it will work. It will be, no, you see, you can see slightly see it there, 0.25. Okay, so you can see that if you have a mask, instead of this, a mask that has white on the numbers and black on the background, then the ones will change color, but the background won't. And that the scenario that could be is that you have something that has metal and at the same time has paint, and you want only to change the paint. You don't want to change the metal, because if you change the metal, tints the whole thing out, then the metal will start looking like gold, like red gold, or like copper, or whatever. You don't want that. Does everybody understand that?
Yeah.
Does it make sense? If you want me to repeat, I'm happy to do that. Okay, I only recreating this to showcase a scenario, but ideally you can pull it out for an alpha you created here, and that's the one that's gonna connect here. Or if you have a clean metallic, you can use it from the metallic here, because the metallic will be a black and white image as well. If everything is metallic, then it will be, well, you have to invert it actually. You have to invert it because everything white is metallic, and you don't want that. You don't want to tint the white, so it could be easier just to have something in here specifically. So I'm going to stop previewing this because we don't want to put that capability yet. That maybe later. Again, so this stuff here gives me the capability to do all this stuff. Okay. So at the moment I'm tinting this stuff. Okay. So I'm tinting. Let's put it back to the default, which is 0, and the blend here, and then the blend here to 0.5. Okay, and then I'm going to save this. Okay, and we're back to square one. Okay, so we have this, everything has the priority. You can see you go base color, multiply color, and then base color tint amount, and you can tweak things down. So now we have pretty much the basic for having the tint in there. Okay, so what should we do next? Let's put one last section here so we can finish this up for today, and this is the ability to change the actual color. Now, remember that every time you have this, for example, this in here, this is a wheel of color, okay? And that wheel goes like this. You can go like this, spin around and change the color, and that is pretty much changing the hue of the color, okay? So let's say that you have the ability to change the value here. You have the ability to change, tint everything, but at the same time, you have the ability to do something further, which is, sorry, here you change the amount of the tinting, and then as well here you have the ability to have an overall shift of the color. This is optional, guys. It's up to you if you want to do it. You don't have to. There is a node here called hue shift. Yeah, and what it does is you can change the hue of a whole texture, in this case vector RGB, by a value from 0 to 1. And again, connect this here. Okay. Let's start previewing this. At the moment, nothing happened. But if I change the scalar here, this needs an S, look, scalar, which means it needs a number. We press 0, and if we attach 0, nothing happened. But let's see what happens when we start shifting this guy to another number. Let's say 0.4. See, 0.7. And stuff. So this stuff here, what it does, it tints the whole thing, and it keeps going. And what it does, what it is, it's just circling through this wheel like this. Okay? And it does is circle around. That's why the gray doesn't get affected, because the gray is in the middle and it's neutral. Whatever has brighter values, it will start going based on this. Going around like this. Okay? And this is an extra thing if you want. You don't have to. By default, 0 will work because that will keep us the original color. And again, let's turn this guy into a parameter, and then we're gonna call this guy hue shift. Just an extra thing if you want. Don't have to put that. We can put here this hue shift. Default will be 0, and here I'm gonna stop previewing this node. And again, the same principle. I need to take this guy and I need to put in the group that I created. And I'm gonna give it a priority. The last priority I think was 2, so this one means it's number 3. So I can go from top down. Okay, so here. Okay, and let's compile this dude. And let's see, have a look at this. You see, I got now the hue shift thingy. So even if I don't want to use this, I can still probably go here and then start circling the colors around. Look, and I can change things. It doesn't work on the gray because it's neutral. The gray is neutral, and I show you that right here. You can see that stuff is in the middle. If you rotate in the middle, it just stays in the middle. It's pretty simple. The value that you have something that is gray is here in the middle. So rotate in the middle, you will stay in the same point. If you rotate here, then you change color. Okay, think about that way. Okay, so if you have something that has different color, let's find another texture here. You can see it. Let's see, we have something a bit more interesting. I don't know, I'll go. Let's try that. This is stuff. So you can see that I can tint the whole thing. Look. Okay. So you can do that. Okay, and it just does from 0 to 1. It wants on the whole color wheel like that. Okay, let's put this back to the default so we know. Okay, and then we can put this back to the X if we want. Okay, so now we have the ability to work on this on the UV set level and the color level. So I think we're gonna wrap this up here. Again, select all this. We're gonna press C for comment, and we're gonna call this guy base color tweaks. That's it. Now we have this thing in place, and So what we have to do now is base color, all working, compile. Let's have a look. All okay, no errors, everything is fine. Now, let's tweak a little bit the roughness if we want to. So the roughness at the moment is in the red channel. So I think there are many ways of tweaking the roughness in a shader. You got your own thing. I think Matt shows you how to do that. There are tutorials online how to do that stuff. I tell you, man, I don't tweak it that much because if you think about it, you need to get the roughness right from the beginning in your texturing. So if you don't get that, if you hoping that you're gonna create some sort of crazy amount of nodes here to create an amazing setup for your roughness, I think that would be too unrealistic. Because if you don't have the original roughness correct, then what's the point? So it's always nice to have a little bit of tweaks in here, but not necessarily something that is going to be crazy. So I only have something that is pretty simple, and I use just a couple of nodes, like clamp things out, and then probably if I want to, I can change a little bit like the actual perhaps the actual roughness up and down, or I can change the contrast if I want to. I can add contrast if I want to. So I can probably just start with something simple, and then we just want to leave it like that for today, and then we continue this next week because my throat hurts now. So again, roughness at the moment, this channel I assumed I got it in the red. So if I open this texture, the roughness that I have at the moment look like is in the green here. You see it's 50% gray. So it's something that is fairly rough. Okay. So I'm gonna continue with this. So I'm gonna do it here. So I know that my assumption is that the roughness is in the green channel, in the red channel, sorry. And I'm gonna do that. Okay. So I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the stuff that I normally do. You can do this, and we can perhaps add later on the contrast. But let's put just a little bit of just a simple minimax. So we can take roughness, and then we can put the minimum and the max, and then you can clamp it between those. That could do it. Let me find something a little bit more elegant, perhaps. Let me show you my material. This guy has something that's a little bit better. Let me show the original. I'm gonna open my master material, and then I'm gonna have a look at that, what I did in the roughness. I think the I did here the I think it's the RMFO, and then here the RMO's rough prime. Yeah, this one here has just a simple. Yeah, this is just a simple, it's a layer between two things. It's not necessarily something crazy. Let's put something simple for now, and then as a standing, and then later on I'll do something else, okay? So, at the moment what I'm gonna do here in the roughness, to tweak a little bit if we want to, we can do is, we can have a clamp, so we can clamp thing between 0 and 1. And we can put a minimum roughness, a maximum roughness. So we can take, let's say, a node called clamp. Okay, not lamp, but clamp. No calm. Can't type today, clamp. So clamp, what it does, it takes two numbers, minimum and maximum, and cap this input between those two numbers. Okay, we know that we shouldn't take your roughness higher than 1. Okay, so the moment this is 0 and 1. Okay, I don't think this probably will work. Let's do something. Okay, I'm gonna connect this into my roughness. Okay, and it doesn't make any difference. You're just clamping that number between 0 and 1. Okay, if you want to make that number and clamp it between 0 and 0.1, then everything starts looking shiny, you see, because I'm clamping this number between 0 and 0.1. Okay, but we don't want that. So for this, we're going to have two controls. Okay, those controls are as follows. So we're going to take Maybe with this one, because it's a single color, we'll not see, but we're going to change that quickly in a minute. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press 1, 1 again, and I have 2 parameters. I'm going to convert both into parameters, and this is going to be called roughness min, and this is going to be called roughness, sorry, I need to convert it into a parameter first, apologies, and this is going to be called roughness max. Okay, and those 2 numbers here will be the minimum and the maximum, and then I will know the minimum is 0 and the maximum is, default is 1. And for this we're going to create a new group here. We're going to call this group I think number 3 hyphen, and we're going to call this guy roughness tweaks. Okay, and we're going to add the same group here. You see now I have the roughness tweak now, and this is going to be priority 0 because I want the minimum on top, and then I want to have the maximum as a second entry. So that will be 0, 1. And then we put this guy here, minimum and maximum. Okay. And now when we apply this, I can shift or remap the colors a little bit. Look at this now. Here, so we go this, maybe a sphere will help. And the highlight here, you can see that the moment this is 50% gray, that's what you get rough. But if you go, you see I go an entry here now, it's called roughness tweak. So I go minimum and maximum, and I say the minimum is going to be different. You can see that's going to be now tweak everything too bright. If I want to make the maximum low, so we can just lower it. And so when I lower it, you can see towards 0, it gets shine. So I have the ability to change this. So at the moment, you cannot see it much because it's just a material. But if we change our RMO to one of the ones that I have here that I could be more interested in. So let's type main tank painted metal. Something that has a bit more variation. There will be picture portrait area. No. This one, suppose. You can see there. Look. So at the moment, this is what the roughness looked like. You can see it's quite nice and interesting. Okay. And what I can do now, if I want to tweak, I can say I can tweak a little bit. I can make it shinier, but I'm killing it. So it's always, you see, it's always so much you can do. At the moment, I just remapping the colors a little bit. So I'm shifting the black towards the white and the white towards the black here. Make things shinier. So you can mess things around. So like I said, you can always have a little bit of a tweaking there, but it's not necessarily something that you want to do in engine specifically. If you have the stuff good, well done inside Photoshop or inside whatever texturing software, then that's the starting point. So the minimum and max, I'm going to keep it there. But then ideally what you should have is here before this is there is a node called contrast. It's called contrast. There's one here called chip contrast. Okay, and this one here, what it does, it takes a scalar, which is this. Remember, a single channel is a scalar, is a number, 0 to 1, black, 0 to black to 1, to white. So you take this, you're telling the amount is another scalar. You connect one to this. Okay, we keep this as default, 0 and 1, and the chip contrast, we can put another scalar here or another parameter. We press S and click, and then we're gonna call this contrast amount. Oops. Contrast amount. Okay, and then we're gonna put in the same group. We're gonna perhaps give this a little bit of a priority. Let's put this one to 0 and see if it puts it on top of everything. Or we can just put it to 0, and then we're gonna put this guy to 1 and this guy to 2. So it's to make things clean. So I connected here. The contrast says that 0 default does nothing. 0 contrast is default contrast, and so we put this guy to make sure that it's 0. Connect these two. So what we can do here is we can change the contrast, and then here we can just clamp it, the numbers. When you clamp 0 to 1, you can clamp the values between these parameters to this bracket between 0 and 1. So you see things that are a bit too shiny, then you can just change the bracket and then you make things a little bit rougher. But again, I always keep this in very cautious because I don't really want to tweak my stuff. If I got it right from the beginning, I will have the ability to do a little bit of a tweak, but not much. Okay, so we have this. I'm going to apply it and see what it looks like in here in the master in the material instance. Okay, so let's put some again, so maybe more interesting because the 50% rate doesn't really help us. Make time. Yeah, let's do this. You can see that this has a very interesting roughness. Now, roughness min and max is fine, but when we tick contrast amount, I can change the contrast. Look, I can make it contrasted. I can make it less contrasted. So I have the amount to tweak it a little bit, but you have to be quite careful with it because this will probably mess up your stuff. Okay, you can see it here. Let's have a look at an angle with the light. Yeah. So I advise you to make sure that your roughness map looks good in your painting top software. And here you will have the ability to just give a tiny touch up and down, and you can tweak it with it. So very, very subtle. So with this, you will have the amount to clamp it, and then here you can clamp it between, you know, you can clamp the values and then change the contrast, and you can do some stuff in there. So clamping, what it does, it just clamp between 0 and a value. So if you have a value that is 0.5, but then you're clamping it between 0 and 0.5, then that 0.5 that you have will convert now in the middle to 0.25. Just remapping things. So with caution. Okay, so here we have this. I will say don't tweak this more than that for now. And press C. We call this guy roughness tweaks. Okay, and now you have something that works with base color, roughness, then metallic. There is not much you can do with the metallic. Metallic you can probably clamp it between 0 and 1 and that's it. And then the stuff gets interesting with the normal, and when we add the ability here to switch to a different UV set, and that's what we're going to do next week to make this more robust like the materials that I have in my project. Okay, so I'm gonna stop this here because otherwise I will not be able to talk anymore for the rest of the day. And I thank you very much, guys, for not sleeping. I'm assuming you're not sleeping, but questions? Yeah, anybody got any questions about this? We continue this next week, guys.
Are you gonna put this up?
Yeah, I'm recording this, and hopefully, yeah, it's been recorded. God, I've been talking for 1 hour and 42 minutes. Wow. And yeah, it's gonna go into the. I'll put them in YouTube, and I'll put a link in one of the entries in there. Yeah. So I think somebody put what control while clicking on the connection. Okay, I'll keep an eye on that. Yeah, I'm sometimes quite bad for those little UI things. Some people I'll just figure it out as I go along. But yeah, sorry, it will make things a bit more efficient for me. So anybody got any other questions about the things that I just showcased here? I think this is something that will take your material to the next level. I think here what we're gonna do, we're gonna create a switch that allows it to switch UVs. So you're gonna have here something that says we're gonna have this, and then here we're gonna put one with the other UV set. So we can use one. We can switch. Hey, do you want to use UV0 or UV1? And then we're gonna put a switch here, and then when you make an instant, you will have that switch. And that will be more advanced, and then we will have the ability to tile material together with another material, and then we can put another set of material here that says this is going to be the tileable and this is going to be the unique, and then we're going to blend it together, and then you will have a material that when you're swimming like this, you will have plenty of detail like this because you're using a tileable material on top of a unique material that you want to be painting in substance. Okay? Somebody says something? Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm just wondering, would you recommend like any articles and anything like that on like, you know, just like the kind of like the theory behind like each node? Because I think I understand, you know, like how like some of the functions work, but in terms of like making my own, I would like have no idea where to start, and I was just wondering if there's like some good like starting points on like kind of the theory behind each node, like any articles or anything like that.
Oh man, there are so many. I will think about something, and if I find something, I will put it through. But I think the majority of this, it comes from the documentation in Unreal. Each node will have a documentation that tells you what roughly they do, and they will give you an example. So if you go through with a cup of tea through the documentation, you will probably get a good grasp of what each node does. And I think that's a combination of that. But then as well, the other important thing is you need to have like a clear idea of what you want to do. Like for example, when we're talking about here the master material, and we say, well, we know that here we're changing the value, and you understand what value is, which is color theory that we just been playing with you guys in the beginning. You know that if you multiply a color by this, it will make it darker or brighter, and then here we will tint it by overlaying. This is Photoshop. And then here we know that we can blend between the original and the other and the tinted one and the original by blending in between based on a black and white color or black and white alpha or black and white control. And then here we change the hue, and then we have put everything into the base color. So let's think about two sort of ways here. One is a technical way, which is actually what the nodes do. And another one is, well, you as an artist, what idea, what is it that functionality you want to do? For example, the question you asked earlier, that is a starting point. Is how do I actually mask out this? Because if I want to actually change the color of a wall, but then the wall have metal, and if I change the color of everything, then it will change the color of the metal, and I don't want that. So for that, you need to think, okay, so when I export my materials from Substance, I will make sure that I have that mask embedded in here, and I will use it. And by using it, I have to create this and then do some logic that allows me to blend like the stuff here with a lerp. So you need to have you have to research a lot, and then obviously I'm here if you got any questions something, then I will be always be able to help you. But for example, what I'm doing here now, that's something that we are hoping to address in the next generation of the course, because we want to start with materials from the beginning. So by the time you reach a later stage, you will have a good understanding of this. But I think we have covered a lot with you guys over the last 2-3 years. But then remember that there is a great deal as well of how much you research put into this. And I think probably what you just asked is probably the most difficult question. Is that where do I start? And I think you should start with documentation, having a look at what each node does, and then trying to picture an idea. How can you possibly implement it in your materials? And then researching, and then Googling, and then it goes quite crazy. Now, I think a good resource, I would say that 80 level, the website. If you type 80 level on YouTube, or sorry, on Google, then you will find articles and articles and articles about materials in Unreal. YouTube tutorials, basics, how to do materials, what the materials do. But I think I went here through, very specifically certain aspects, so you can actually have a good idea of what the material is going to look like. And then when we finish this, I will probably give you this material to you guys to have. Okay, does that answer your question, Connor?
Yeah, that was perfect. Thank you, Louis. Cheers.
Yeah, just Google 80 level. I think you are aware of that website, yeah?
Is it at level?
I don't know.
It's just 80.lv. 80.lv.
Yeah, 80.lv. That's correct. Yeah, 80.lv. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's correct. 80.lv, and then that's it. That's all you need. Yeah. Just gonna copy it, and then just gonna paste it here so everybody have it. So that stuff is actually quite good. I got a lot of things from there. Sometimes like looking for something, like, oh okay, all right. And the thing is, like, it's not like sometimes too in depth or sometimes very in depth, but then you got the idea and then you get like the terminology and then you can Google the terminology easier, you see, because they already show you, oh, this is the, I don't know, like when you found the bit depth connection, you knew the terminology, and if you didn't have all the information, you can actually Google it with the name. Okay.
This website is so helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Cheers.
Cool. No problem. No problem. I think we want to continue this next week, and hopefully, guys, and this material applies for everything, for characters, for environment, for everything. The only thing that I'm probably not gonna attach to this is the subsurface scattering. But if you are a character artist, you can add the subsurface scattering on this, and all you have to do is go into the documentation on Unreal how it's implemented, and then just connect it here the nodes, and that's it. So you have this tutorial now that I'm gonna put online, and then we'll have a good starting point, and then next week we continue with this. Okay. Okay, brilliant. I'm gonna stop the recording. Okay, and then we're gonna review. For those who want me to review your work, then I can do that for an hour, and then or a little bit more, or if you want, we can do everybody today. I don't know if you have to go or something. So you have to go, I understand, but if you got any issue, just let me know. Just send me a message, and I will book some time with you. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
I need to go back to go. So.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, just send me a message. I understand, but the point is that I was trying to do this for you guys, so you can actually have a good material sort of base to actually push your models, you know.
Yeah.
So,
it'll be extremely useful because I did think about this last semester when I was doing my hanger, and it's like I probably didn't. I mean now it's like with this way I'll be able to look at I might be able to change some of the tint of some of my materials, but I mean I still need to remake them because the roughness levels are not correct, but it's useful.
Yeah, but this is we're gonna do this and next week we should wrap up, and then we continue with the review as normal. Okay. All right, cool, brilliant. Okay, all right, no problem. I'm gonna stop the recording now.